Today on Racing Legends podcast, I have my Preakness review, the 2023 Preakness, the second jewel in the Triple Crown. I have a lot of experience going to the Preakness. I've gone many times. It's such a great event. If you're a partier, you can go in the infield and drink beer, listen to music, run on top of the porta johns that they place 40 or 50 across. Lots of fun to have if you're into the horses and you love the sport. Great seats where you can watch a historic race from a historic track. So it's a good time. I have a lot of emotions and sentimental thoughts regarding the Preakness. In terms of the race itself, it's interesting because in years past, everyone wanted to come to the Preakness and get back at the Derby winner. Connections felt like things that just didn't go their way, but the Preakness is a different race. It's a little bit shorter. Instead of the 12 furlong Derby, mile and 1/4, it's the 11 furlong Preakness, a mile and 3/16. The track is different. It's the way Pimlico is laid out. The turns are tighter than Churchill, which the turns are more gradual, which makes it easier to move on the turn at Churchill than it will at Pimlico. Pimlico can favor horses with early speed, but often it doesn't because of their early speed. Horses are willing to duel for the lead. Mage obviously is the favorite, and whenever you have a odds-on favorite, probably 6-5, even money favorite, that is going to, in a small field with 8 horses in the race, all the jockeys in the race are going to know where Mage is. And that's going to really affect how the race is run. When you have a Derby with 18, 20 horses, jockeys are just worried about their own trips. They can't focus on one horse. They might not ever see that horse, but they have to find space to run. But when you have a small field of 8 horses and a favorite, they know where all the horses are generally, and they're definitely going to know where Mage is because he's the favorite. The trick about Mage is he is a fast horse. He can run early. But the last 3 races, he's broken flat-footed, and he's been able to run well without being on the pace. But sometimes that can affect your position in a race, especially in a tactical race, which the Preakness should be. Now, if Mage breaks sharply and is on the pace, that really affects the race, and Mage is going to be very tough to beat. He showed the ability to close ground. His Derby race was fantastic. He had trouble out of the gate, was able to dart towards the rail, was blocked briefly on the far turn, circled when he needed to, and still was able to run down 2 fills who had a perfect tracking trip inside. So, but in the Preakness, if he breaks sharp, he's gonna probably just go right towards the leaders without having to go to the lead, and that's going to dictate everything. But when horses start breaking badly, that tends to become a habit. So I think there's a very good chance that he's going to break flat-footed once again. And that could be difficult for him because there's not a lot of pace in the race. The horses aren't going to spread out. They might be in a tighter bunch. If that happens, there's no guarantee he's going to get a clear trip, and things can get very tough on him. So I think Mage is a very beatable favorite in this race, even though I think he's a great horse. But I think the small field and the lack of committed frontrunners can make this task tricky for our favorite. One horse I noticed right away is National Treasure. This is a horse that John Stetton had talked about when he came on the podcast a few weeks ago, right after the Derby. And he is a Bob Baffert horse. I guess he was transferred back to Baffert from the Yachteen stable, which I'm sure has a little bit to do with the fact that maybe there's a suspension in California. But anyway, Baffert has a lot of experience winning Preaknesses. I forgot how many he's won, but he knows how to win this race. If Mike Smith was on this horse, I think the tactics with this horse would be clear. We would see this horse go right to the lead. Mike Smith is as good as it gets in reading a scenario like this on a dirt surface, and he's won so many races on classic races on the dirt. So with the inside post, I think Baffert would send this horse with a Mike Smith. He's never really been on the lead, but he showed speed in a sprint in his first race. So we know he has that ability. And because there's no pace in the race, I think he'd be on the lead. With John Velasquez, it's very unclear what the tactics will be. Velasquez is much more of a passenger than Mike Smith is. He's the kind of jockey that kind of lets the horse run his own race, I think. He does not make decisive moves as a rider. I know Baffert is the kind of trainer that lets jockeys make decisions. He doesn't like to run the race for a jockey, but Baffert will understand how tricky the inside post is, but what an advantage it could be if National Treasure can get on the pace early and everyone else backs off of him and looks for Mage's move. National Treasure could very well go wire to wire in this field. Again, I'm not a John Velasquez fan. I don't think he's not the kind of rider that I think reliably will go to the lead and take advantage of a position that he has, but we will see. One of the horses in the race that's going to have an impact is Coffee with Chris, trained by John Salzman, local trainer. Definitely a long shot, ridden by a tremendous local rider, Jaime Rodriguez. This horse has got pace. He is probably the pace of the race, not because he's faster than anybody, but he's just shown the willingness to go towards the lead. And because the other riders won't have respect for him, they're probably not going to duel for the early lead with him. So there's a good chance if he breaks sharp, this is your early front runner. And if he outbreaks Mage, who has gait problems, that can put Gage in a box early. So the fact that he's next to Gage in the gate, if he breaks in front of him and he puts Gage behind horses early and the pace doesn't develop, that can have a profound effect on the race. I think the key horse in the race is First Mission. And one of the reasons why he's so dangerous in the spot is his post position. He draws the outside, 8 posts out of 8. Whenever you have a long run to the first turn, outside post is a tremendous advantage because Luis Saez, tremendous rider, has won the Preakness before. He'll be able to look over and see where everybody is. If you're in the middle of horses, if you're in the middle of the pack, if you're where Mage is, you have to look both ways to see where your competitors are. If you're National Treasure, you only have one way to look, but you're more committed because you're inside and you may not want to be caught inside if the pace doesn't develop. Well, Luis Saez on First Mission is going to have all the options, and he should be able to look down and see how Mage breaks, see what Mage does. And if National Treasure doesn't go to the lead and Coffee with Chris gets a comfortable early lead into that first turn, First Mission is going to be in prime position to steal this race. So he'll be able to track with First Mission. Saez has no incentive to duel with Coffee with Chris. He'll let Coffee with Chris go as slow as he wants to go. He'll track that pace and go for the lead into the stretch and hope to hold Mage safe. If National Treasure breaks early from the inside, goes to the lead, Coffee with Chris is probably going to track that horse. So First Mission won't have to. Saez is not going to have to track him, but it is unclear how much pressure Coffee with Chris will be able to offer National Treasure if he's really running. If Rodriguez is committed to pressuring National Treasure, First Mission might get a great trip just setting off those two and can make his move into the stretch. If Sage feels like he has to pressure National Treasure himself, and those two, they're not going to blow it up front because they're both those jockeys are going to look back and look at Mage, and Saez is going to let John Velasquez go as slow as he wants to if Coffee with Chris is not pressuring him. But it all depends on how they break and what the jockeys decide. I guess what I'm trying to say is I think Mage is the best horse in this race, but because the field is small and there's no committed front runners, it's going to be a very tactical race. In his lack of ability to break out of the gate sharply can really hurt his chances to get good position. That could be the determining factor in a race. If that happens, I think National Treasure and First Mission both have equal chances to upset him. It all depends on what the jockeys do. Again, Saez's tactics are pretty simple. He's going to track the horses inside of him. and he's going to wait until the stretch and go. He probably has no incentive to try to get an early lead unless he outbreaks the field. It's National Treasure that has a decision to make. And if John Velasquez is aggressive early, gets his horse in the lead in the first turn, and the pace is slow, and there's only token pressure from Coffee with Chris and First Mission, I think there's a chance National Treasure can go wire to wire. Good luck to all. Thanks for listening.